Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here with us today. My name is Frances Klingenberger. I am the Manager of Strategic Programs at the Greater Bakersfield Chamber, and I am happy to welcome you all here this morning. So due to the challenges of 2020, we have adapted our typical one-day summit event into a series of virtual webinars spanning over the course of a few months. So this year's summit will feature weekly webinars on various topics. Some of the ones coming up in the next few weeks are Enneagram types, diversity, equity, and inclusion practices, entrepreneurship, leadership, achieving financial success, and a bunch more. So I'm going to pass it off to Hillary.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Hillary Haynes, and I am the Vice President of Member Engagement at the Greater Bakersfield Chamber. Just want to thank you all for joining us this morning. At this time, I'd like to thank our sponsors for helping us put on this program for everyone. We're so happy that we're able to do these weekly webinars for the community. So I'd like to thank Strata Credit Union, who is our BYP program sponsor, Kearney's Business Technology Center, and Comprehensive Blood and Cancer Center. I just want to go over some Zoom etiquette real briefly with you just to make this go as smoothly as possible. So first off, just want to let everyone know we're recording this session. We'll upload it to our YouTube channel so that for those who can't attend today, if they forgot, if they have something else going on, another Zoom meeting, they can tune in. If everyone can go into speaker mode, I know that we'll, from our panelists, we'll have a couple of them will have a PowerPoint presentation, so that will help. And then also, if everyone can go on mute, if you have a question, we want to hear from you. We want this to be an engaging session, so you can type your questions in the chat, and then we'll, you know, if you have a, if we read out your question, feel free to chime in at that time, go off of mute. And then I'm going to turn it over back to Frances.
Thanks. So we are here today with our health and wellness specialists on our panel. At this time, I'd like to introduce to you our moderator and our BYP Council Chair, Mitchell Patel. Mitchell is the Public Information Officer for the Kern Behavioral Health and Recovery Services. So I'm going to pass it off to you, Mitchell.
Alrighty, thank you, Frances, and thank you, Hillary, and a special thank you to the entire Chamber team for everything you guys do, especially in 2020. On behalf of the BYP Council, I want to welcome everybody to today's amazing conversation we're going to be having. I am the 2020 chair. My name is Mitchell Patel, for those of you who do not know. Really, you know, 2020 has been an interesting year. Like, there's been so much thrown at us, and prioritizing our health has been you know, one of those things that we really should deal with. We're in a pandemic, it's dealing with health. And in addition, you know, our mental health and our nutritional health are there too. We have some great speakers today that are going to cover some great topics, and I'm going to stop talking because I'm going to let them speak and just share their wisdom. And so I'm going to go ahead and first introduce our speakers today. I'm going to go and start with Jennifer Woodward. Hopefully I'm pronouncing everybody's names and everything correctly, because these are some very intricate bios here. Jennifer Woodward is a certified functional diagnostic nutritionist and board certified functional wellness coach, currently pursuing her master's degree in integrative nutrition. She works with women all over the world to help them soothe their digestive woes, speed up their metabolisms, and stabilize their hormone imbalances. She is also the executive director of the Association of Functional Diagnostic Nutritional Professionals, and loves getting to help new FDNs thrive professionally. This year, in her free time, which I don't know when she has free time because this is an amazing bio, her free time is spent homeschooling her 4 children, but when she can sneak out, she loves to play ultimate frisbee or walk with her dog Baxter. So welcome, Jennifer. Next up, we have Courtney Rainey. Courtney is a Central Valley native, and she has lived in Bakersfield for almost 20 years. She's a graduate of Cal State Bakersfield Master of Social Work program and has been working in the mental health field since 2005. At this time, she serves as the division president for Aspire Behavioral Health an outpatient treatment program providing intensive outpatient and partial hospitalization services to adolescents and adults. She specializes in the treatment of trauma and is certified in the gold standard treatment approaches such as eye movement desensitization and repossessing, EDMR, trauma concourse yoga, and I'm probably butchering these, somatic psychotherapy. In addition, she is certified in mindfulness and meditation and utilizes other modalities for healing such as art therapy, health rhythms, therapeutic group drumming, and group therapy treatment for select areas of clinical need. That is very impressive. And last but not least, we have Amanda Smithson, who is with Bakersfield Behavioral Healthcare Hospital. Amanda Smithson has been working with Bakersfield Behavioral Healthcare Hospital, try to say that 5 times fast, since 2017, where she brings more than 15 years of experience in marketing, public relations, healthcare, and business development to the position. Amanda's passion for mental health and addiction is what drew her to BBHH. She is proud to utilize her vast skill sets and passion for mental health / addiction to further promote education, compassion, acceptance, respect, empowerment, advocacy, and sincerity through her community. As a proud Bakersfield community member for the past 21 years, she has had the privilege to be part of the community's growth and expansion, and is excited about her numerous opportunities to help reduce the stigma associated with mental health and addiction. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Jennifer, who's going to share some of her amazing knowledge on nutrition. Jennifer?
Thank you so much for that, Mitchell, and thank you for having me. I'm very honored to be part of this panel. My husband said, are you honored because they asked you to be part of the panel, or are you honored because they think you're young? It's like, hey, man. Both, of course. So welcome, everyone. This is a really prescient topic right now. We're all worried about, our mental health, our emotional health, our physical health, and then our immune health. And so that's what I will be sharing with you today. We are going to be talking about how important it is to use food for mood and energy while the world falls apart around you. No, not really. And remember, everyone, that you really are stronger than you think you are. Before we hopped on today, we were talking about the fact that every day kind of feels like a Monday now. And so I want to give you some tips and tricks on using nutrition to help you kind of bust out of that plateau of just feeling very blah during this time. And it looks like we already have my bio, so we can go right past that and go into what it looks like to eat for energy. When I was talking with Francis and Hillary, they were saying, how does somebody who works in an office all day kind of avoid that, 2 p.m., 3 p.m. slump? And so I do have 10 tips for using food to balance energy and mood. So we're going to go through those today, but I wanted to give a quick overview of the topics that we'll be covering in brief. So number 1, you're going to want to balance blood sugar. We're going to see what that looks like. Number 2, let go of food rules, and we'll definitely get into that as well. Number 3, create more cellular energy. Number 4, stop skipping meals. Number 5, clean up the chemicals around you and in you. Number 6, eat more protein. And 7, drink water until you pee. Yes, even if you work at an office, drink water until you pee. Number 8, consider cutting down on coffee. Number 9, use grounding foods for anxiety. And number 10, use light foods for depression. So we're going to get into some Ayurvedic principles of nutrition and what it looks like to use food to oppose conditions in the body that are out of balance. Okay, so the question I get asked a lot when I work with my clients is, why am I so tired? And really, the number one reason why you are so tired is that you've got spikes and dips in your blood sugar. You do have sugar running through your bloodstream every single moment of the day because our body runs on glucose, and glucose is the sugar that your blood uses to give you energy. That has to be shuttled into the cells in order to create ATP, which is a unit of energy that gives you kind of oomph and vitality and get up and go. Another reason why you could be so tired is that you're eating foods that you're sensitive to. And probably everyone here is, knowledgeable enough to know that you might want to, mess around with giving up gluten and giving up dairy. Those are two very common foods that women especially, but men too, are really sensitive to. And that can set off a chain reaction in your body that makes you feel exhausted. When you think about it, you're usually really tired, like between 2 and 3. Right? So that's after lunch, while your body's kind of processing these foods that may or may not be working well for your body. So we can talk about that. There's actually one really easy way to decide whether or not you are sensitive to a food. You can run a $500 blood panel, and that changes all the time. So I don't necessarily recommend running like a food sensitivity panel. Obviously, this is different from like a food allergy panel. If you go into anaphylactic shock every time you eat peanuts, that's a true allergy. What we're looking for here is a food sensitivity. And you can actually use something called the pulse test to see whether or not you're sensitive to a food. So this is really easy. Let's say, for instance, you eat almonds. For me, I'm reactive to almonds. So my normal resting heart rate, you can see, on your Apple Watch or whatever, is about 70 beats per minute. Yours is probably somewhere around the same. If I eat almonds, my heart rate bumps up to 80 beats per minute, and I can feel it. I can feel it, in my pulse points. I can feel my heart start racing a little bit. That's a clear sign that my body is sensitive to that food. So this is a totally free, very easy way for you to determine what foods you may or may not be sensitive to. And if you can start weeding those out, you can start reversing some of that exhaustion that you feel in between meals. All right, not getting enough rapid eye movement sleep also makes you exhausted. If you're not getting into deep sleep every night, it's really, a no-brainer. You're gonna wake up tired in the morning. And that kind of like happens in aggregate, right? It happens for a week and then a month. And then after a year, you realize, holy crap, I haven't slept well in a year, right? And so of course you're gonna feel exhausted. And that kind of exacerbates a lot of these issues that you're dealing with, food sensitivity, spikes and dips in blood sugar. So we are gonna talk about ways to help get a really great night's sleep. The last thing is that hidden infections can make you exhausted. And I'm talking about things like viruses. You might know or have heard of the Epstein-Barr virus. Raise your hand, throw in a yes in the chat if you've ever had mono. I'm assuming it's probably going to be like, 30 to 50% of you. Even if you didn't have mono and someone in your family had mono, you probably are carrying that virus. And as we know, because we're living in like the viral age, those viruses don't really leave your body. I see some of you guys throwing me hands up. Those viruses kind of go into hiding in your body. They hide in your organs, like your brain, your adrenal glands, other tissues in your body, and they can come out and they can start, playing havoc with you and really contribute to the exhaustion that you're feeling on a daily basis. This happens a lot more when you are stressed out. Right? So right now is the time that these viruses are coming out to play. So everything that you've heard, and we're going to go in, I think, a little bit of this in the questions to boost your immune system using like vitamin C, using antivirals like L-lysine, which is an amino acid, really upping your fruits and vegetables is going to help push those hidden infections back into remission. And you could, of course, test for that. You can ask your doctor, can you give me an Epstein-Barr panel, a Lyme panel, a viral panel, and you can see if there's any of those little infections that want to come out and play. You got to tell them, no, now's not the time. All right. So energy, of course, it starts with awesome nutrition, right? And of course, I have to say that because I'm a nutritionist. But let's say this. What if you emptied your mind of every single food rule you've ever heard? And I don't know if you guys want to throw some things in the chat, like some of the food rules that you think are really important, that you might have seen on Google, that you might have read in a magazine. But probably at this point in time, they're going to be something like keto or, plant-based or intermittent fasting or 1 meal a day. Those are really popular kind of nutrition fads right now. But what I'd like you to do during the course of this presentation is just, empty your mind of all of those food rules. Because I'm going to tell you a secret, and it is not sexy. Nobody wants to hear it, but balance really is the key, you guys. And I know that's like a big, surprising thing, but honestly, like our bodies are meant to be in balance. And if you want a balanced body, you have to give it balanced nutrition. So depleted and confused bodies tend to lack energy, and they tend to lack a balanced mood, right? That just makes sense. All right, we talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but energy comes from adenosine triphosphate, right? ATP. This is the body's basic unit of energy. And the way that you create this energy is through two dietary factors. This is very simplistic, but basically it comes from purines, and purines are found in things like dark meat chicken, like red meat. And that's not really popular right now either. But as we see, you know, especially a lot of our young people, and this is really important, I think, for mental health, because I work a lot with young women who have mood disturbances and mental imbalances, and they're ascribing to like this really low fat, low animal product diet, and they're depriving their body and their brain of the essential units and building blocks of excellent nutrition and neurotransmitters even. So purines coming from dark meat help build energy in the body, as well as D-ribose. And ribose is a simple sugar that allows your body to create energy. And this is like the spark, right? And that's what we're looking for with our energy needs, is like that spark. Our primary source of energy is glucose, as I touched on. And this is great news, because you don't have to go keto to be healthy, right? If you've ever tried it and you're like, oh my gosh, day 3, like I am gonna kill somebody and I just want McDonald's, right? This is supposed to work. I'm supposed to lose 10 pounds. It's a crock. No. Some people do great on keto, but for people under stress and duress and people who are, you know, already malnourished or undernourished, you're really going to want to work on upping your source of good glucose, good sugars in the body. And this comes through complex carbohydrates. I'm really big on this principle we call ancestral nutrition. And when you think about it, you know, this is what I tell my clients. What did your great-great-great-great-grandfather eat? What did your great-great-great-great-grandmother eat? If your ancestors ate it, it's a food. If your ancestors didn't eat it, it's not a food. You probably shouldn't eat it, right? Very simple rule. But when you think about it, your ancestors, no matter where you are from culturally, you know, geographically in the world, they probably ate some good complex carbohydrates, roots, tubers, grains, fruits, and vegetables. And so that's a great source of creation of energy in the body. And I know that was one of the questions that we had that we were going to discuss later, but I'm going to give you guys, you know, an answer to the question so you can rise to the front of the class, right? Complex carbohydrates give you great energy. Now, when you eat sugars, like good sugars, I'm not talking about like Fun Dip like I used to do in high school, thinking that I was healthy because it was only like 80 calories, right? No, that's a simple sugar, and that's going to mess with your own blood sugar. But good quality carbohydrates turn into glucose in the bloodstream, and they're stored later in your liver and your muscle cells as glycogen. And then your body can use that and recycle it. So when you're low on blood sugar, your body can dip into its stores, and it can bring that back in to help your energy stay strong in the body. All right. I don't know why I put that. It's not all or nothing, but in light of what I said, it just kind of makes sense, right? Like you don't want to cut out all carbohydrates. You don't want to cut out all fat. You certainly don't want to cut out all protein, right? And energy comes from this building block. Okay, there's a lot of text here, but we're going to condense this down into something fast. Your first energy zapper is skipping meals. Don't intermittent fast if you're already tired. What I tell my clients, if you're like a 21-year-old dude, go ahead and intermittent fast. You'll probably do great and feel great. But if you are, you know, over the age of 25 and you have any stress in your life at all, or if you've ever struggled with any nutritional or weight imbalances, intermittent fasting is probably going to do more long-term damage than good. And I'm going to provide a copy of my slides to you guys so you can send them out afterwards. You guys can read through some of these things too, because I want to be mindful of time. But just remember, when you skip meals, your body sends out a stress hormone called cortisol. This further changes the way your body metabolizes food and stores fat. So it might look good in the short term, but in the long term, you're actually doing damage to your body. All right. Second energy zapper is chemicals. And you hear about why you should eat organic. And in Bakersfield, we've got some amazing, amazing ways to eat local and eat organic. So I'd encourage you to seek some of those things out. Downtown, right before all this crap happened, we just had this renaissance, like resurgence of amazing restaurants and people who are passionate about food and local and ingredients. And so I'd encourage you, like, go ahead and utilize those resources that we have in Bakersfield. But even if that's not your jam and you can't necessarily afford like going to eat at a really great restaurant using organic ingredients, Walmart, you know, Sam's Club, Costco has plenty of organic food. And it really is true that eating organic food pulls down pesticides, phthalates, BPA, all these yucky things that end up getting stored in our fat tissue and making us tired, overweight, and kind of grumpy, actually. So you're gonna wanna switch your personal care products, right, to things that don't have aluminum, that don't have plastic in them. And if you wanna reach out to me, my website's jenniferwoodwardnutrition.com. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. Ask me these questions. I'm happy to answer them for you for particulars. You're gonna wanna stay away from wheat because glyphosate, a compound that is a pesticide in wheat, can actually tear open holes in your small intestine and cause you to have food sensitivities. Fluoride used in our water displaces iodine. Iodine's a chemical or an element that's extremely necessary for thyroid health. And if you've ever thought that you've had any thyroid issues, you're gonna wanna look at your water, right? Coffee, I know this doesn't make me popular, but coffee is a highly sprayed crop. So at least try to get organic coffee. Alcohol is also a chemical, recognized as a chemical in the body. I love this product called Kin Euphorics. If you're writing this down, you can look at their website. It's a adaptogenic kind of blend of really cool herbs and neurotransmitter precursors that kind of help chill you out without the alcohol. It's like 40 bucks. I love that stuff. All right. Energy zapper number 3, insufficient protein. Okay, everything in your body is made from protein, fat, or sugars, right? Very few things are made from sugars. The most structural components of your body are created by amino acids. Do we have a question? Just interrupt me if we do. Okay, great. So your sleep hormone, your thyroid hormone, your adrenal hormones, these are all amino acid derived hormones. So if you're not eating enough omnivore protein and plant-based proteins in your diet, you don't have enough building blocks. And so your energy is gonna suck because your body is in this state of constant catabolism, which means it's always being broken down instead of being built back up. Energy zapper number 4, not enough water. I had a client, the day I was writing this presentation, a client messaged me and said, Jen, I didn't drink all my water yesterday and I realized I used to feel like this, which she said, I felt crappy all the time. I realized I used to feel like this all of the time. And she did. She felt worn down. She felt broken, undernourished, and no energy because she wasn't giving her body enough water. Shoot for, I see everybody drinking right now. I love it. Shoot for 64 to 128 ounces a day. I'll give you guys a little peek into my excess. This is a gallon-sized water bottle that I try to drink every day that I got on Amazon. So just try to drink 128 ounces. See what happens. See if you don't feel better. Energy zapper number 5, coffee. Now this is paradoxical, but I see it work all of the time. Coffee is very hard on the adrenals. And so when I help my clients wean themselves off coffee, Shannon, for just a little bit of time, they realize after a month or so, oh my gosh, I have so much energy. I didn't realize that I could have all this energy without relying on coffee. Like I said, I've probably seen this happen 500 times. So just try it. That's not an exaggeration, by the way. Try it and see if you can wean down on your coffee, increase your water, and try to have, and just be mindful of the fact that your energy might come back. All right. We're going to talk now about eating for mood. We'll do this quickly. There's a principle in nutrition called Ayurveda. Ayurveda is a very old, holistic nutrition principle. It's an Eastern nutrition principle, and I love Eastern medicine because they look at the body as a whole, whereas Western nutrition generally looks at things in a very reductionistic way. And so when you think about some of these issues that you might deal with, mood imbalances, anxiety, and depression, you can use food as a tool to help balance the things that are out of balance. So let's say you struggle with anxiety. When you think about what anxiety is, it refers to things that are like light and ungrounded, panicky, fearful, fast, right? All of those are words that you could ascribe to a condition like anxiety. So using food and Ayurveda as a principle, you'd want to counter that with food that is cooked, heavy, fragrant, warm, spicy. Can you see how those principles are kind of at odds with each other, and you can use them when two things are so far out of balance, they start to balance each other out when you use them correctly. Now let's look at depression. Depression tends to be low, heavy, muddled, and bland. And so you can counter that with foods that are like light and fresh, cooling, bright, things like citrus, things like smoothies, things like spring soups or salads, right? Whereas if you have anxiety, you'd probably want more cooked stews and soups and heavier meats and root vegetables. Does that make sense? Cool. I see some nods. Thanks, guys. Supplements, because I always get asked on supplements, and I'd love to share some of these with you. If your energy is low, and again, I'll share my slides so you guys can have access to these, okay? B12 is something you can check in your blood work. Almost 100% of the time, I see that my clients are low in B12, and that's easy to start with. You can do 2,500 micrograms, not milligrams, 2,500 micrograms or 2.5 milligrams of B12 once a day with breakfast. I love this supplement called Loving Energy, which is a Chinese tincture made by a company actually down in Southern California, all organic, and it just helps clear out your liver so that your body actually has more energy. I love a supplement by Mega Food called Blood Builder. Most women especially are very deficient in iron, and it's cofactors. When you're low in iron, you're not going to have energy. If your period's ever been wonky or weird, or you suffer from any blood issues at all or energy issues, try Blood Builder for a little bit, and I take that with breakfast as well. Now, I'm a functional diagnostic nutritionist. We put a lot of stake in functional lab testing. So our whole maxim is test, don't guess. I don't want to guess what's wrong with you. I want to know what the data says. And so when I see that the data is showing me that your hormone levels are off, we can start by supplementing some of these hormones like pregnenolone, which is your master hormone, right? Your master steroid hormone, or DHEA, which is a derivative of that. Again, you can ask for these tests from your doctor or another functional practitioner, but learning some of your own body's data really helps increase energy in the body. Next steps. Oh, okay. Well, I'm at jenniferwoodwardnutrition.com. That's me downtown. I love Bakersfield. Again, thank you for letting me be part of this. Bakersfield Young Professionals. I hope that was quick enough. If you have any questions, like I said, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm really active on Facebook. I'm moderately active on Instagram, and I'm always down to answer emails. So thank you, everyone. If you have questions, let me know.
All right. Does anyone have any questions?
It looks like I've got the chat up here if you don't want me to, or if you're okay, I can kind of go through. I see that Courtney says breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Totally, Courtney, 100% agree. And Cole says breakfast is a key for metabolism, or so they say. I'll comment on that really fast. Correct. Also, according to Ayurvedic medicine, your digestion, you've got this fire, right? Digestion's like likened to fire. And your digestive fire, also referred to as Agni, burns super hot like a furnace from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. So you're actually going to want to congregate like the majority of your calories at the beginning of the day, because your body can get through it quickly, burn it up. Digestion takes a lot of energy. And so if you're not digesting well, your energy is going to be down as well. Hillary says, I need to try the hot chocolate cravings buster. Heck yes, it is my favorite. Sometimes I have like 3 a day. So I'll share that recipe with you guys, because it's a great way to kind of wean yourself off coffee while still having something warm and creamy and satisfying, like, which is what we want with our coffee ritual, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shannon says, cutting out coffee is so challenging, and there were a few days of headaches, but I 100% have more energy. It's nuts how counterproductive that coffee is. I definitely miss my coffee ritual though. Shannon, you've kicked ass with that. I'm so proud of you, and I totally get the ritual. So that's why I say don't put anything off without putting something else on, right? So use the hot chocolate cravings buster or some tea. You know, chai tea is my favorite if you are missing that ritual. Maria says, I don't know how I could give up my coffee. I hear you, girl. I can give you some tips on how to do that, but it's definitely hard. And then Kathy says, is loving energy good for the kidneys? That's a great question. Yes, it is, because all of those organs of detoxification are related when you look at the body holistically. So liver, kidneys, gallbladder, digestive tract. Loving energy helps kind of clear everything out by using milk thistle. And so it is going to be helpful for the kidneys as well. And it looks like that's all the questions we have right now. I don't know if there are any more in person, but I'm happy to take them.
I have a question. So it seems like everything now seems to be like some type of superfood. So is there a way to kind of determine what actually is a superfood and what the real benefits of those foods are, and what's kind of maybe more like a scam?
That's awesome. Yes, I love that question. So superfoods basically have some sort of benefit to the body, right? So traditional superfoods are things like, blueberries or green tea. And when I tell people about superfoods, I say, like, is somebody trying to make money off of this, right? Like goji berries that you can buy for $30 a pound or something. Do you necessarily need those in your diet? Probably not, right? But can you add more blueberries and green tea and almonds and things that are relatively inexpensive, and you know that your ancestors probably ate, and they're a whole food because they've got one ingredient themselves, right? They're gonna do really powerful things in your body. So if your diet's whole food based, you're already getting a lot of great superfoods, and you don't necessarily have to go seek out others. Does that make sense? Cool.
All right, are there any other questions?
Hang on.
Guys.
I have one more real quick. Sorry, it took me a while to plug back in.
Go for
You
it.
mentioned wheat being bad. So wheat and gluten kind of go hand in hand. But can you touch on that a little more? Like how, I know obviously wheat bread, but how else are we getting something that's so toxic for our bodies? Like I was really surprised about the oversprayed coffee. But on the wheat alone, can you kind of explain that a little more?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great question. So wheat's so ubiquitous, it's everywhere right now because it's used as a filler in so many things that a lot of our grains can be cross-contaminated with wheat. And so if you're sensitive, look for sources of wheat. Most things have to say like certified gluten-free if they're actually free of wheat. And it's not wheat that people react to, it's the protein in wheat, which is called gliadin. And gliadin is something that your body can mount an immune response to. Other places that wheat tends to hide actually is like personal care products, like your shampoo and conditioner. I had to throw away some of my conditioner because wheat is used as a filler and a thickener, right? And I've got, gut sensitivities and Hashimoto's. And so I'm like, I don't want to be putting that in my body every day. And so you can look at some of your personal care products, but if it's an issue for you, or if you have any gut problems at all, look around and see if some of the foods you're eating a lot of have wheat, okay?
Alrighty, thank you, Jennifer. That was really informative. And keep sending those messages or questions in the chat. But we're going to go and move on to our next panelist. And our next panelist is Courtney. Courtney, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you. So I wanted to make this a little more conversational in nature and just kind of talk about what I've noticed, what's coming through my doors, and probably similar to how a lot of us are feeling and reacting. So with this pandemic has come crazy amounts of disruption, disconnection, uncertainty, changes, and we typically don't do well with changes in general. And so when things are just thrown on us, and then in addition, we're fearful about the disease itself, is our family going to be safe? So there's a lot of extra stress and pressure on everyone, and I'm pretty sure that unanimously we have all been affected by this. So what the professionals are saying, the national experts are saying that, this really has made the mental health crisis in America just so much worse. So the good thing in that, the conversation is being had. So it's kind of taking the face, are taking the stigma away. So we're able to have these conversations openly, and more people are going to be willing to reach out for help. So I think that is a positive thing that's come about because of the pandemic. However, people's anxiety, depression, traumatic stress issues, insomnia, the inability to focus, to do everything that they need to do just has been really overwhelming for people. So I wanted to get a sense of just what does that look like on a national level? What are we talking about in terms of percentages? Has there been any studies done? So I have seen what I've seen in my office, but I wanted to see if it mirrored kind of those national statistics. So I brought a couple here that I found. So Qualtrics is a national company that's known for providing real and accurate data. And it was produced by Forbes magazine. So I feel like this is good data. So it says that 67% of people report higher levels of stress and anxiety than before. 57% say they have more anxiety in general. 54% say they're more emotionally exhausted. 53% say they feel sad day to day. 50% feel more irritable. And 42% report their mental health has declined. So that really does match what I'm seeing in my office. So patients that used to come and had really been doing well for maybe a year or so, I'm seeing them back in my office. And people that have never had any services or any counseling or therapy are coming in for the very first time. And when they come in, they're oftentimes in crisis. So it's kind of like they're waiting till the last minute for whatever reason. You know, there still is stigma. It's hard to be courageous and take that first step. So once they come through the door, they're really desperate. They're needing to tell their story. They're needing to be heard and understood, but they're also needing higher levels of intervention at that point. So I'm grateful that I represent 2 different organizations that really have the full gamut of opportunity to kind of float from one level of care to the other if needed. So always you'll have the support of individual therapy or couples or family or whatever it is. My private practice, we have a group practice now, so we're able to see patients 5 and up. But then when in the IOP and the PHP levels of care, we serve patients 13 and up, and that provides more treatment, more hours per week, 3 hours per week, 5 hours per day, depends on the level of care, of really intensive services, so we can help people stabilize much more quickly than, you know, kind of stringing it out over the long haul, over, you know, months and weeks. So I'm glad that I have that opportunity, because I feel like I'm in a unique spot that a lot of therapists are feeling maybe not as empowered in that way, that people are coming in with a lot more acuity, and, you know, there's just not enough of us to go around, unfortunately. So I think, you know, I'm grateful that our community does have really good providers and people that really care. The other thing that's kind of increased, and to me, I think makes perfect sense, before the pandemic, the national estimation of how many people have a mental health condition was 1 in 5, but now it's 1 in 3. So I think it's safe to say that all of us are struggling, you know, so all of us can really benefit from knowing, how do we just better care for ourselves? How do we better provide for what our needs are and nurture ourselves through this? So I also wanted to mention that in addition to the above percentages, what I'm also seeing a lot more of is suicidal thoughts. So I don't shy away from that conversation at all. I'm very comfortable having that conversation. And most people don't have an imminent plan. They're feeling really overwhelmed. And the idea that, yeah, you know what, if I didn't wake up tomorrow, that would be fine with me, you know? So not necessarily I'm going to go do this or do that, but a lot more people are just feeling like, this is just getting too much. I can't take it. My kids are here. I don't feel like I'm really thriving in any domain. You know, I'm disconnected from everyone. So there's just a big shift in, you know, the level of distress that people are in. So I love to just have that open conversation, because we are all in this together. So it's not like those people or the crazy ones or whatever. It's like we have to include ourselves in that group of people that need to really ramp up our internal resources and our self-care practices, so we can rise to the occasion and really understand what our own needs are, not be burying our heads in the sand and just getting by another day, but really being proactive about what strategies are we going to implement day by day, moment by moment, to make sure that we're going to stay well over the long haul. Because in the beginning of the pandemic, I don't think anyone knew how long this was going to go on. So people were okay, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, maybe even 4 months. But now it's really wearing on all of us. We miss people, you know, we're hardwired for connection. So when that was removed, I mean, we're already really needing to ramp up the other alternative means of connecting with people. So that's a huge thing. I mean, because it's a biologic need. We need each other. We really do. So I think the concept is isolation, not disconnection. So ramping up what you're able to do as far as the workarounds. So the Facebook, the, you know, Messenger, FaceTime, anything to just make it feel as normal as possible. So I know there's different creative things people can do as far as having group sessions, you know, group working out, even if you're all on your own computers or whatever it is. So just really being able to look into those like alternative kind of strategies to make sure that you're feeling connected. So the other things I wanted to talk about is some of the most vulnerable in our population that's being most affected by this pandemic is the young adults and the teens. So on average, you know, 70 to 80% of our young people are really stressed out, and they don't have the tools and they don't have the resources to know what to do here. So, I mean, they're so socially engaged, but they're not connecting, they're not rolling with this very well. So making sure you're dialed in and having that dialogue, that communication with your teens, asking them how they are, and just kind of knowing in your own minds, what is it that we can do in general to make sure we're staying healthy, that we're really not going to be as affected, because again, preemptively, we're going to implement these strategies to make sure that we're well and that we stay well. So some of the coping things that I've seen, or that seem to be working really well, is number one, check in with self-compassion. Self-compassion is the ability to empathize with the you that's going through these struggles. So instead of, you know, that kind of internal bully or critical voice, like, you're not coping well, like, you should be doing better, the shoulds, the musts, the, you know, those kinds of like the oughts, those are just heaping shame upon pain, and that's not helpful. So, you know, recognizing that this is a hard time and that, you know, we're all coping well as far as it goes. And so, yeah, is it good to be dialed in and self-aware that you're struggling? Yeah, it is. But also giving yourself permission to not be operating at 100% capacity. Maybe you're operating at 80%. Good for you. And just be okay with where you're at, and making sure you're making time throughout the day to step away, to take those breaks. One of the things that working from home has provided is flexibility. So when possible, go throw a load of laundry in, or go on a 10-minute walk around your block, so you're able to get up and move. One of the most important things for mental health and wellness is movement, is exercise. So the mental health recommendation is at least 20 minutes a day. And this doesn't have to be sweating bullets. This is just movement. So getting outside, moving your body, taking a walk, whatever it looks like for you, taking your dog out for 20 minutes a day. Because when you move, you're changing your physiology, and physiology affects directly the chemicals that are being produced in your brain. So instead of having these negative capacities, you know, the dopamine, the feel-good things that are already starting to dry out when we get stressed out and anxious and depressed, encouraging those things to flow and operate and keep going and keep supporting how you feel. So moving is a huge thing. Going back to the basics, one of my favorite strategies when people start to spiral out is, okay, back to baseline. How much are you sleeping? How much are you eating? What kinds of foods are you eating? Drinking the water. I love Jennifer's presentation. That was just so amazingly supportive for where we are, you know, taking some of those advices and, you know, stepping it up. You know, we had the opportunity to kind of fall asleep at the wheel nutritionally before, but this is a brand new day. So I really appreciate those words of advice and the supportive comments and recommendations that you gave, Jennifer. Those were awesome. The other things that you can do is mindfulness. I sound like a broken record when it comes to mindfulness and meditation, because it's so transformational and it is so healthy and strong of an intervention. So at the core, mindfulness is just about being aware of the present moment without judging yourself in it. So getting out of your head, out of the dialogue, out of the, you know, the old tape that's going around and around, and start establishing a new tape for yourself. So getting out of your head into the moment, plugging in, grounding in to the moment. So at its simplest form, it's just sitting and paying attention to your breath. And you'll notice your mind wanders about 5 million times, and that's normal. So you just come back to your breath each and every time. So that's kind of a hardcore strategy right out of the gate. So there's a lot of tools that you can use. There's a lot of apps. Most of them are free. The one I recommend the most, just because I'm the most familiar with it, doesn't mean it's superior. It's called Insight Timer. And so on the app selection, it looks like a little brown bowl. And it has peaceful music, and it has guided meditations. Meditations I would recommend for this kind of pandemic period of time we're in are self-compassion, forgiveness, and gratitude. So things that are along those themes. When we feel depressed, the highest place we can go towards love is gratitude. And so when we're grateful, it's really difficult to be singing the blues, because we can find so many reasons to be grateful. And when we connect with gratefulness, suddenly the issues that we have feel really minuscule. Okay, so we don't get to have as much social contact, or my favorite restaurant's closed. Not the biggest of deal when you kind of look at it from like this, 10,000 feet perspective. So I just hope that these strategies have been helpful. Self-care, 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 being gracious with yourself, being kind to yourself, establishing wellness techniques, and being proactively inserting those things on a regular basis intentionally. If you're hoping that you're just going to suddenly wake up and feel motivated to, now I'm going to do these things, it's just going to go by the wayside. So making it as important as, one of your meetings that you have, or one of those mandates. So making sure that these things are being plugged in, and that you're, parenting yourself when you want to say no and you want to kick and scream and not do it, is I really need to do this. And your mind, your emotions will really thank you for it. So that's from me. Please reach out if you need any help. Obviously, one of the best suggestions, if you feel like you're floundering, and even if you've tried to ramp up self-care and you've done everything you can, if it's not working for you, you definitely reaching out to professional help is an amazing idea. And it's not something to be ashamed about, or that you're failing at this. It is just where we are. And it's just a natural part of life that when you start to be kind of, bamboozled with all these additional stressors, and someone takes you out of your comfort zone, sometimes we can't adjust very well to that. So this is just hard for everyone. So if that's the case for you, welcome you to reach out. Myself and the other clinicians here are happy to work with you and help you develop the strategies in your own life that you can really thrive, even though this is a difficult time for all of us. So thank you very much. I welcome your comments and questions. And I'm glad you guys all are chiming in. So exciting to just be part of this.
Thank you very much, Courtney. That was really, really helpful. I'll also plug Kern BHRS. We have a app guide which has mindfulness apps, and these apps have been vetted by peers. And peers are people who have actually gone through the process of recovery, gone through treatment, and now are employed by Kern Behavioral Health to help others. And so I'll share that link, but it's got some of the best apps that are available. They're all free, but they're all mindfulness apps. And I've downloaded a couple and they're pretty great. I'll share the link in the comments section, but I do have a question for you, Courtney. And the question is, 2020 has been just, I think 2020 is a bad word in 2021. That's how I look at it. So really, I think a lot of people have been feeling all the feels, and people really, have been pushed to the edge. Like you said, it's just been one of those things. But, could you identify what the main difference is between a panic attack and an anxiety attack? And really, what would you do for somebody who, is having a panic attack or having an anxiety attack? Because I know some of these symptoms are even similar to having a heart attack. And, I know that there is the recovery position, and I don't know if you want to mention any of that, but just those steps that you can do to help somebody to really, work yourself through a panic attack or an anxiety attack, or what you can do for yourself. I hope that wasn't too big of a question.
So that's a great question though. So the difference between the panic attack and the anxiety attack is the level of risk that it feels to you as like lethally. So when you're having a panic attack, the thoughts of I'm dying, you have all of these physiologic responses. It feels like you're having a heart attack. It feels like you're not going to survive the event. You feel like you're literally at death's door, and it's terrifying. And so when you're in that position, you're not even really that aware that it's caused by anxiety. So those are the people who go to the ER because they think they're having a stroke or a heart attack. And really it's just because their anxiety has just gotten completely out of control. And so really physically there's nothing wrong. So that's really confusing to people because they'll go to the hospital with legitimate physical, symptoms, and they'll all be ruled out. And they're saying, no, I'm not okay. So what are you telling me? That this is all in my head? And so then like, actually, yeah, it is. They're like, that's not sufficient. I don't like that answer, because basically they're not given anything to do from there. It's like, well, it's nothing medical. So you kind of just need to go deal with that. And they don't know how, so now it's like helplessness on top of a very scary experience. Those are the exact two things that create PTSD, where you're feeling like you're going to die, something's in your face. It feels like there's a chance you might die. So kind of life is flashing before your eyes, and a sense of helplessness, and then lack of support. So those are really, really important things to be aware of, is that if things have been really ruled out medically, it doesn't mean that you're okay. It doesn't mean that, no one believes you. It just means that we need to approach this from a different way. We need to be able to address, why is it that your system is so overwhelmed? So being able to treat the anxiety, and being able to know what are those initial like precursors to going from 0 to 100, because usually as they look back, they can see how it was starting to mount. So what we want to do is help people to develop those self-awareness skills so they can intervene way before it gets to that level. So anxiety attacks feel awful as well. It's just an overwhelming sense of fear and dread and heart pounding, and just feel like you're going to crawl out of your skin. It's just very, very acute symptoms of anxiety. So we all have kind of felt that, I'm sure. So heart's pounding, but you don't have that impending sense of doom and that I'm going to die, and there is physical sensations that go along with it, but it doesn't have to do with my heart's going to explode. I think I had a heart attack, or I think I stroked out and no one's listening to me. So, those are kind of the differences. So when you have an anxiety disorder, it's great to, or not even a disorder, just if you're having ramped up anxiety, proactivity is the best route. So recognizing and identifying some tools that work for you ahead of time. Because when you're in the moment, you're not going to be able to remember, a great plan, because you go into fight or flight mode. Your thinking part of your brain goes offline, so you're not going to be full of ideas right there. You really need to have something that you can just grab and do. So one of the best ones that I like for either panic attacks or anxiety attacks is, it's a free thing on YouTube. There's an amazing guy that leads meditations and affirmations. His name is Jason Stevenson, and he has one for panic. So it's like a panic attack, real time. You can pop the headphones in. He walks you through. He teaches you the deep breathing, techniques. He reminds you that you're safe. Feel your feet on the ground. So the suffering piece is inside between this ear and this ear. That's where the suffering is. So we have to retell the story. We have to remember that we're not in here. We're not those worst case scenarios. We're in this moment, and this moment's okay. Feel the ground beneath you. Feel the chair underneath you. Take some deep breaths. Breathe like this, Take some prolonged exhales. Exhales is where you really soothe the central nervous system. So breathing in is great, but really exaggerating your breath on the exhale is what's going to soothe your central nervous system and remind your body and your system that you're safe and it's okay. Hopefully that answered your question.
No, that's great. And sorry, my mute button, it for some reason always sticks right when you're on.
No pressure.
So another service that you can always call if you're feeling an anxiety or panic attack is the current BHRS crisis line, 800-991-5272. And that's just, it's somebody to speak to you. You'll speak to a trained professional, and they will link you with somebody like Courtney if you do need further assistance, because sometimes you just got to let it out. And so there are other questions that into this topic. And so we'll go and ask one more or two more questions. But we've got a question. The question is, what is the best way to support mental health in our children? I know, kids are really missing their friends. They're missing their routine. Distance learning, especially for the younger ones, it's hard. What are some tips that we can help support the mental health of the children?
So just like in a lot of things in life, the best offense is a good defense. So parents modeling how it looks and feels to manage stress in a healthy way, and normalizing that this is uncomfortable. We like to go outside and play. We like to play with our friends, but we're not able to right now. So telling the truth in an age appropriate way, reminding them that this is not a punishment, that we're all needing to keep ourselves and each other safe. And, you know, there are definitely age appropriate breathing techniques, mindfulness, meditation, things you can do. The trauma conscious yoga stuff that was, you were mentioning in my bio. So it's yoga that has a trauma consciousness aspect to it, but really any yoga where you're able to unify your mind, body, and spirit. So it's basically meditation, but you're using breath work and movement. So you're kind of like doing this very synergistic work that is amazingly effective for managing stress and anxiety. So having that, you know, I know there's like PE time or whatever. So maybe your PE time can be plugging in some of these wellness strategies that we know really helps to manage anxiety. You know, so modeling, telling the truth, and then introducing strategies that we know are effective and actually do work to manage.
That mute button again. It's very tricky. Thank you, Courtney. And so we're going to go ahead and move on. And I do want to apologize to Amber. I, for some reason, called her Amanda, and she is not Amanda. She is Amber. So I sincerely apologize for that. But Amber, the floor is all yours.
And just to make it even more confusing, my Zoom says Maria. So, you know, just keeping everybody on their toes today. You know, pick a name, any name. It's okay.
It's a mental exercise, right?
It is. See? Is everybody on their toes? All right. So I'm actually going to do a little bit of a breathing exercise with everybody. So this is a breathing exercise that one of our therapists here at the hospital has done on our YouTube channel. And so I thought that it would be relevant to kind of start off my presentation with one of those breathing techniques or breathing exercises. It's something that he has taught us and he does, and I really appreciate it. In fact, kind of a personal note, I have, you know, kind of walked some of my kids through it even. You know, when they are having a panic attack, I will say, okay, we do a couple of different things. We do this breathing exercise, and then we do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which I can share with you all later. It's also on our YouTube page as well. But to kind of start off, I'm going to share my screen, and then I'm going to get right into that breathing exercise. Well, maybe. All right. Okay, so this breathing exercise is 5, 2, and 10. So what we're going to do is all together, we are going to breathe in through our nose for the count of 5. We're going to hold it for the count of 2. And then we're going to breathe out for the count of 10. But when you breathe out, you want to breathe out kind of like you're trying to blow out a candle without the flame actually going out. So you just kind of want that flame to flicker a little bit. Okay, so we're going to do it together. So we're going to breathe in for the count of 5. So if we do that 3 times, it will actually start to slow down our heart rate. And that's what we really want when we are struggling with anxiety or thoughts of panic. And so I typically like to have people do that before I start in on all of my mental health statistics and suicide statistics, kind of get everybody a little bit more grounded and a little bit more relaxed. So hope it helped a little bit. As Courtney said, we do have a statistic of about 1 in 5 individuals that are struggling with their mental health at any given time. Yes, those statistics have changed a bit since we have been amidst the pandemic. But when we are outside the pandemic, we are still at 1 in 5. And those are some pretty staggering numbers to think about, that when you're in a room with a group of your friends, 1 out of 5 of you are possibly struggling with your mental health. And not everybody is going to want to talk about that. In fact, most people don't. And we'll get into some of the reasons here in a minute. One of the other things that we have talked about so far are our youth. So 1 in 5 of our youth aged 13 to 18 experience a severe mental health disorder. And when I'm talking about severe, I'm talking about something that is debilitating. It completely stops you from your day-to-day activity. So if you were typically pre-COVID going to school and you are now not able to do it, you're now not able to get out of bed, you're not finding joy in the things that you used to find joy in, that is going to be samples of what a severe mental health disorder would look like, and that is going to be cause for alarm. Children ages 8 to 15, so there's about 13% there that also are struggling with a severe mental health disorder. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit of participation from everybody, and I always do this with everybody that I talk to. So we're going to talk about phobias, everybody's favorite topic. So when we're talking about phobias, I don't know if maybe you can comment or raise your hand, but you know, what are some of your phobias? Are you afraid of the dark? Are you afraid? Well, that's interesting. Hold on. I'm looking at something that's different than what you guys are looking at. My apologies. Where is, I know, my screen's different. I'm sorry, y'all. Hold on one second. There we go. Now we have the right presentation. It's amazing what happens when your words. I know, I'm trying to do that. I can just click through the slides. Technology, cha-cha-cha. All right, so it's not gonna do it for me. That's okay. Except now, resume slideshow. They can, okay, well, they can hear me. Yay, that's great. Okay, hold on. I apologize. Good gracious. How did Monday night work and this didn't? Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. All right, so I'm just going to kind of look through, and I'm going to do this, and I'm sorry I can't share my screen, but we are going to just keep going. Yep. Give me one second. All right, there we go. All right, so we're on phobias. All right, so let me comment for me what some of your phobias are. So are you afraid of spiders? Are you afraid of the dark? Are you afraid of closed-in spaces? Are you afraid of heights? There's lots of different phobias that we all have, right? I am absolutely petrified of snakes. They scare me beyond all belief. And I can't even watch shows that have scenes that have snakes on them, right? Like I'll fast forward. I can't do it. So phobias are something that we all deal with. In fact, that is actually a part of an anxiety disorder. So there's actually 18.1% of adults in the US who are experiencing anxiety disorders. And yet when we ask, hey, what are our phobias? What are we anxious about? Most people will say, well, I don't like snakes. I don't like heights. I don't like closed-in spaces. Yes, I get anxiety. I am afraid of public speaking. Public speaking has been, it has been said that more people are afraid of public speaking than dying. Right? So when we think about all these anxieties and phobias, people are okay with saying that. But when somebody asks, you know, are you struggling with bipolar disorder? Are you struggling with schizophrenia, depression? People don't typically want to raise their hand. Most people don't want to talk about that because of the stigma that's associated with that. And so that's why we try so hard to educate and advocate for mental health and suicide awareness, because we want to try to help break down that stigma that's associated with it. We would like for people to be able to more freely say, yes, I'm struggling and I'm living with this mental health disorder, just like I am struggling with or I'm living with this phobia or this anxiety. We need to normalize that conversation. So when it comes to mental health, when it comes to mental health, only about 50% of our population are going to seek out help. But out of that 50%, 90% will be treated successfully. So 50% are going to seek out help, but 90% are going to be treated successfully. Those are some staggering numbers. And the reason why only 50% are seeking out the help is because that of the stigma that's associated with it. And so whether that's a cultural stigma, whether that's the way you've been brought up, it could be that your culture has told you that you are to keep things private. You are not to talk about things. You are not to air your dirty laundry, so to speak. And because of that, it will stumble people and will keep people from seeking the help that they really, truly deserve. And so again, going back to educating and advocating for mental health, that is what's going to help break down that stigma. And there's also some warning signs that we should be looking out for. 69% of people who are struggling with their mental health have unexplained aches and pains that are associated with that. And so those can look like joint pains, bloating, back pain, stomach or digestive issues. Those can be associated with a mental health condition. And a lot of individuals will go to the doctor and say, this hurts or this hurts, and the doctors can't seem to pinpoint what it is. And a lot of times it is associated with mental health. And so once people are able to start promoting a good regimen for their mental health, some of those aches and pains and ailments then subside. Some other signs that individuals are struggling with their mental health are inability to concentrate. They are either sleeping too much or not sleeping at all. There's frustration, there's anxiety, there is mood disorder, or mood swings that go all over the place. People then also will either eat too much or not eat enough, so their food intake changes. These are all signs that people should be looking out for. And if you're seeing that in individuals, then you should be talking to them about it. And I think that's one of the things that we as a society are also timid about doing, is having those difficult conversations. We have to be able to have the conversation with somebody and say, I've noticed this, can I help you? And it's not, when you're saying, can I help you, it's not, let me fix everything, because I'm not a doctor. I can't pretend to fix everything. But you can at least say, okay, let me help you by giving you these resources, right? And I'm going to share a lot of those resources with you in a moment. So some of the other signs that you could be looking out for are you crying frequently? Are you worrying excessively? Are you wanting to be alone most of the time, where maybe you didn't want to be alone before? Are you blaming other people for everything? Do you have a short fuse? Are you having difficulty communicating or listening? So maybe you are in a Zoom meeting, which a lot of us are in nowadays, and you are just spaced out. They could be talking to you, you could be staring at them right in their eyes and not really comprehending anything that they're saying. You're doing a lot of the pseudo listening, a lot of the nodding and but not actually comprehending what they're saying. And then also the ability to feel pleasure and fun, right? So there's a lot of things that we used to find joy in, and maybe we're not finding joy in those anymore. Maybe you're an avid gardener and that just doesn't bring you any joy anymore. Those are signs that we should be looking out for. And along with that, we just need to know our body, right? So know our body. Are you having stomach aches? Are you having headaches and other unexplained pains? Are you, again, losing appetite or eating too much? Are you sweating or having the chills? Are you getting tremors and muscle twitches? Are you easily startled? These are all things that your body are warning you that something's just not right. Know your emotions. So are you, again, feeling anxious or fearful? Are you feeling depressed? Are you crying all the time? Do you feel guilty all the time or angry for no specific reason? Or are you feeling heroic, euphoric, or invulnerable? Are you not caring anymore? Are you feeling overwhelmed with sadness? These are emotions that you should be paying attention to. And then paying attention to your thinking. So are you having trouble remembering things, feeling confused, thinking clearly, being able to concentrate, being able to make decisions? If you were always on point with making a decision and now you're just having a really hard time, even with something as simple as, where would you like to eat tonight, right? Those are another set of warning signs that we should all be looking out for. But then on the flip side of that, we need to be making healthy choices. And there's a lot of different ways that we can be making healthy choices. We've had a lot of really good information so far. Jennifer, Courtney have shared some great information, and I really want to thank them for all of their information that they have provided. And I'm going to piggyback on some of that right now. So some of the healthy choices that we can make are get the facts. You don't necessarily want to search up your symptoms on WebMD. You want to have legitimate resources. You want to go to legitimate resources and find the information that's pertinent to yourself. Find accurate and reliable resources, not just media or not just, like I said, WebMD, but also know your limits. Set limits, know them, respect them, and if you need to, let other people know what those limits are and ask them to respect those boundaries. Turn off the TV and social media. We all need to unplug sometimes. We can get on information overload because there's so much information that is just being fed to us on so many different topics. 2020 is a bad word for a lot of people. And so there's just been so much information bombarded on us. And so we sometimes just need to unplug and give ourselves a break. And it's okay to give ourselves a break and tell everybody else, I'm giving myself a break. I'm not going to be on social media. I'm not going to be doing this. I just need to take a break. Do things like physical exercise, like we've talked about. I'm not a runner. I'm not into a lot of exercise. If I'm running, somebody's chasing me, right? So it's just the way I am. But I know that I can do other things, right? I like yoga. I like to do things like that. So I may choose to do that. Take a bubble bath if you want to take a bubble bath, or take a hot shower. Sit outside in the early morning when it's still nice outside and drink a glass of water or tea, not the coffee, breaking that habit, right? Do things that are good for yourself, that promote good, healthy habits. Stretch, take some time off of work. If you're working, you're an essential worker, take a vacation if you need to take a vacation. But pay attention to your body and how you feel and what you're thinking, and set those boundaries for yourself and do the things that make yourself feel good, right? And above everything else, let everyone around you know what your boundaries are and hold them to it, okay? So I'm going to just talk briefly about some suicide awareness statistics because September is Suicide Awareness Month. And it's so important to know those statistics. Suicide is actually the second leading cause of death between the ages of 10 and 34. And it is only second to accidental deaths. Every time I have to say that statistic, it bothers me. And I think it should bother everybody. It is what they call a silent epidemic because nobody wants to talk about it. But the simple fact is it affects so many people. Here in Kern County, we have around 140 deaths by suicide that we just had. I believe it was last year, or 2018, 2019. These are numbers that we need to pay attention to. There are so many resources that we as a facility can provide to you that you can find yourself. The Jason Foundation, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, these are two really great nonprofit organizations whose sole purpose is to help educate and advocate and prevent suicide. The Jason Foundation focuses on our youth, and the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention is all ages, and they want to help educate and advocate for suicide awareness and prevention. And I would just ask that you all take a look at their websites and do what you can to educate yourself about suicide awareness. There are some signs to look for. So people that are actually talking about suicide, they're making statements about feeling helpless, hopeless. They're showing deepening depression. They have out of character behavior. They start giving away prized possessions, regardless of their age. These are some warning signs that we should be looking out for, paying attention to. There is a myth that if somebody is talking about suicide, or I'm sorry, if somebody's thinking about suicide and you talk to them about it, that you are going to somehow force them to do it or push them towards wanting to do it more. And that's not true. If somebody is thinking about suicide, if somebody is starting to possibly voice some of these warning signs, take it seriously and get them the help that they need. And sometimes that is calling 911 if you have to, but there's other ways. Kern BHRS has a crisis hotline that Ellen Eggert is a part of. You can text home to 741-741. You can come into our facility for a free and confidential assessment for possible admission. Whatever that looks like, know your resources, use your resources. It's so vital. There are some populations that are at risk more so than others. So the LGBTQ plus community, those who have a perfectionistic behaviors, people who have medical conditions, people who have been bereaved by suicide. So that maybe they have lost somebody in their life to suicide. There are individuals that who are struggling with substance abuse that are more at risk. So knowing the people that are more at risk, knowing the warning signs, and then lastly, knowing where to go. So educate yourself, communicate. It is so vital that you do so. We have a YouTube channel that we have lots of different videos from various therapists in our hospital that talk about grounding techniques. They do breathing exercises, anxiety and panic attacks, and how to work your way through that, different ways to communicate therapeutically to your loved ones. It's just a vast source of resource. And so I would invite everybody to either go to our Facebook page, our website, our YouTube channel. You're going to be able to gather all of this information. Also, all the resources that I have at my disposal are also going to be listed on those social media platforms, and then I'm also going to be sharing them with Hillary and Francis so that they'll be able to share it with you, because we do have local resources, we do have national resources, and I implore all of you to take care of yourself, because if you're not healthy, you can't help anyone else. And B, know your limits, know your boundaries, set them, stick to them, and let everybody else around you know what they are. Treat yourself well, know your signs, know the signs around you, and know that if you see something out of character with somebody that you love, say something. Don't think it will go away, because it won't. I promise you it won't. and then utilize those resources, utilize this amazing community that we have here in Bakersfield, rely on one another. And if you don't know where to go, ask somebody else. Call me. If I don't have a resource at my fingertips, I'll find one for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very insightful. And so we do have a question for you, and I think it's a really good question. And, you know, really mental health goes along with other health issues. And so could you speak a little bit on the link of substance abuses and depression or other mental health issues?
Absolutely.
Co-occurring existence.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times and that's why I leave it to the professionals, you know, like our therapists and our physicians, because a lot of times they have to discern kind of which came first, because a lot of times you will see the two kind of go hand in hand. Oftentimes somebody who has been struggling with a mental health condition for years will self-medicate. And that of course can make things so much worse. And then you have individuals who have been using some kind of substance for so long that it has created a mental health condition. And you actually treat those in two separate and completely distinct different ways. And so that's again why I say I leave that up to our physicians to use their insight, because depending on which came first will depend on the source of treatment. But oftentimes when individuals are struggling with anxiety and depression or any array of kind of mental health condition, none of us want to feel that way, right? And so instead of using healthy techniques to help combat those symptoms, they will turn to a substance to mask them. But that's all it really does, is mask them, because when it goes away, all of those symptoms are still there and oftentimes worse.
Right. Yeah. You know, I think that's the link. You know, I've worked for behavioral health for about 6 months now, and the thing that's shocked me the most is the link between mental health issues and substance abuse issues and the self-medication. You know, this year I've seen so many memes that are jokingly talking about, you know, alcoholism and drug abuse, and it's those things that just really, you know, we really need to be conscious of, because, you know, we are in a traumatic year. And so I really think that that's great. And thank you for all that helpful information and for everything you guys do for the community. If there are any more questions, we can ask them, or we can pass that out there. But I think we are rounding out the hour in our time. So I'm going to just go ahead and ask Amber to include her information in the chat, and we'll send out that send out those PowerPoints. And then I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to the person who has the best job title in all of Bakersfield, in my honest opinion. But I always butcher it for some reason, because it's the VP of Fun, or VP of Funness, because she really does live up to it. So,
well, thank you, Mitchell. Again, I want to thank you everyone for tuning in today. A big thank you to Mitchell, our BYP Council Chair. You did a great job of moderating today. And also thank you so much for all of this helpful information from Jennifer, Courtney, and Amber. If you guys have follow-up questions for them, please reach out to them. We will be sending out an email afterward of the recording, and then also PowerPoints from Jennifer and Amber, and then those contact information as well for all of them. Another thank you to our sponsors, Strata Credit Union, CBCC, and Carney's for sponsoring this BYP Summit Series. And then also for those who attended today, I wanted to let you know that if you attended, you will be entered into win your choice of either a float therapy or an infrared sauna session. And that is courtesy of Health Spa Zavelle Bakersfield. And then I'd like to turn it over to Amy Stewart, who's the owner, to just kind of share briefly what the contest entails, what those therapies, how they help you. So I'm going to turn it over to Amy right now.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. Thank you guys. So I am Amy Stewart, and I don't know if any of you even know that we're in Bakersfield. I actually opened up Zavella Bakersfield February 11th and closed March 20th. So we are open again. I am a nurse, and I've worked in the medical industry for 30 years, and a lot of that was with chronic pain. So along with that is a lot of mental illness, dealing with mental health. And so that being said is why I opened Zavelle. We offer float therapy, infrared sauna, which both of those therapies help with anxiety, depression, sleep deprivation. So I'm excited to be part of this group, truly. I would love to share more information with all of you. We're getting ready to send out a huge email blast to offer huge discounts to anyone that needs it. If any of you that are treating have someone that could utilize my services, but maybe don't have the financial resource, please reach out to me. That's why I'm here. I want to help as many people that I can. And I would have never, ever in my wildest dreams wanted to start a new business and have this pandemic happen. But I do believe now I'm much more needed, and our services are much more needed now than ever, because there's not a single person, as all of you have said, that are not walking around with some type of anxiety or depression right now. So thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this group. I look forward to more meetings.
Thank you, Amy. So as we said, we will announce that winner later today. We'll do a video and share that and then tag the winner. I have all of your emails, so if you receive an email, you're the lucky winner. But I'm going to turn it over to Frances to close this out.
Thanks, Hillary. And I just wanted to say a huge thank you to all of our panelists and Mitchell for moderating. I think this is just such an important conversation to have, especially right now. I know I got a lot out of it. I hope all of you did also. And thank you for showing up today and participating and being a part of this conversation. Like Hillary said, we'll be sending out some of the resources from our panelists to all of you. So please, please share them with your friends, share them with anyone who you think might be struggling. We just want to get all of the information out to as many people as possible. On a different note, we hope you will join us again for our next BYP Summit Series webinars. We're doing a two-part series on Enneagram types, and we'll be joined by local Enneagram coach Grace Kabalka. So it's going to be a great little mini series within the Summit series for the next 2 weeks. So if you're interested in learning about Enneagram types, or you know a little bit about them and you want to explore your type a little more in depth, please join us. Hillary just sent out the link in the chat, so you can RSVP through that link. We'll be sending out some more information about the next 2 webinars soon, and we hope to see you again next week at the same time. So thank you all so much. I hope you have an incredible rest of your week. Bye.